We are live. What is up, swimmers and swammers? Welcome back to the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, joined by my fellow New Yorker, Sophie Kaufman, as well as the dirty double himself, Brendan Burns, coming from outside of Philadelphia. What's up? It was a big weekend of swimming, a lot of swimming happening, a lot of swimming news happening. So we're going to dive right into it. The biggest news coming out of the weekend is Chrissi Rawak. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. Chrissi Rawak withdrew as USA Swimming's new CEO after a safe sport complaint surfaced, and it has been confirmed. USA Swimming confirmed that the report was made to Safe Sport after Rawak was announced as the new CEO. You can read much more about that. We go into depth much more. The story took place over the weekend. The cliff notes of this story was USA Swimming announced she was stepping down due to personal reasons. A text message then came to light that she had sent to her University of Delaware athletic staffers saying that her mother-in-law had passed away. Her father-in-law would be staying with them in Delaware, and then she wouldn't be taking the USA Swimming CEO position because of that. And then it later came to light that a Safe Sport complaint was filed against her since the announcement of her becoming USA Swimming's new CEO. And within 24 hours of USA Swimming being aware of this complaint being filed with the U.S. Center of Safe Sport, Rawak resigned from the position of CEO. So those are the facts as we've reported them. Lots of opinions, lots of comments on that, but I'm just here to ask Sophie and Brendan today on the breakdown, how do you see USA Swimming moving forward, or rather, what would you like to see from USA Swimming moving forward on this? USA Swimming spent 6+ months looking for a new CEO. They finally announced it, and then she's there a week. And now we are back in this precarious position once again. Sophie, I'll go to you first. Just what would you like to see moving forward from our national governing body?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really unfortunate situation all around. Like from USA Swimming's perspective, this was supposed to be the turnaround announcing the CEO, like to get some confidence back, like and trust in the organization. So it's a really, really unfortunate that it's turned out this way, and that the safe sport allegation is a piece of why Rawak will not be the new USA Swimming CEO. I think going forward, you hope that you keep seeing more of what the transparency that their second statement that they released, I think on Saturday had. Now they're kind of back to square one, except it's not really square one because they'd already announced somebody. So I think you're hoping for, first off, some clarity moving forward on what the search for the new CEO is going to look like and the timeline on that. I think circling in all of this is the fact that there's a home Olympics coming up, and you want USA Swimming to take advantage of the opportunities that kind of thing presents. So having leadership in place to help facilitate that will be really crucial. So just, I think, first and foremost, like a timeline and what their expectations are for the process of finding a new CEO. Are they going to do a full 6-month search again? Are they going to keep Shayna Ferguson as the permanent CEO? I think the answers to that kind of need to come sooner rather than later, just so everybody has an expectation of what this is going to look like, and there isn't more uncertainty swirling around, or at least as little as possible.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that sentiment. I love everything you said, and I feel like that kind of boils down to one word, which we haven't been used to from USA Swimming a lot, which is transparency. Just an open process. Let us see what's going on and how it's happening. Like you said, providing a timeline would I feel like just instill so much more confidence than perhaps was instilled the first time around, where USA Swimming put together a task force, and then the task force hired a search firm. And with none of that, we didn't know what the process looked like or how long it might take. And so I think transparency would do a lot for the USA Swimming membership just to instill confidence that, okay, there is a plan, that we're not just moving forward without structure in place, or just on X amount of time. Like, we know when things need to happen, and we know when things are supposed to happen. So I agree with you there, Sophie. Brendan, anything to add on this topic in terms of how you would like USA Swimming to move forward, or what you would want to see?
I think both of you guys kind of hit the nail on the head. This is a really tricky situation. I'm not sure if I have a frame of reference for another situation that has quite had the details that this one has had. I just hope that both sides can find the right solution, and I hope that USA Swimming can just make the right decision going forward. So just hope that the right solution gets put out there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate both of your insights on this, and it's not something I want to dwell on too much, because we've done extensive reporting. If you want to see more on this topic, you can certainly head to SwimSwam. There is plenty of conversation, both editorially and in the comments, that for you to dive into there. But I did want to start out the breakdown with this because it was a big topic this weekend. So way to start our week off. But let's turn our attention to some of the actual swimming that happened this weekend. We had a ton of conference meets. I'm going to focus on three, which are the men's Big Ten championships, the Big 12 championships, and the men's Ivy League championships, where we saw historic swims in the NCAA from all three. Let's start with the men's Big Tens. Brendan, I'll toss this one to you first. Your alma mater, Indiana, not only won their fourth straight Big Ten team title, they won it by the highest margin of victory in conference history, which is saying a lot because this conference has been around a long time and it has had a lot of storied programs. What did you like that you saw from this Big Ten championships most?
It was a great team performance by my alma mater. Congrats to them for winning four straight. I think individually, I'd probably give this, I don't think it's ridiculous to say this was kind of a B grade team performance. There were some guys that were clearly saving it for NCAAs, and I think this team will be ready to go for NCAAs. I think Finn Brooks and Owen McDonald had probably the two best individual meets. They put on some incredible performances, but all around, a lot of really great guys stepped up. And I just want to give a shout out to the exhibition guys. You know, when you have a deep team like Indiana, like we have, there are going to be some guys in the exhibition that put up some times they're going to score at NCAAs, but unfortunately they just didn't quite have that third event to score Big Tens. And I also want to give a shout out to Luke Barr. He really put on a great performance, 140 in the 200 IM. He was 45-0 in the 100 back. His 100 free was really strong as well. And it was great to see him just kind of put it all together for his best Big Ten individual performance that we've really seen from him.
That's also an event lineup that I don't feel like you see super often. I thought he would have swam the 200 back on that last day, but switching to the 100 free, some versatility, certainly some different speeds in those events. So yeah,
I was really happy for Luke Barr. He's he's a guy where he's the epitome of versatility being a curse, where he literally does not have a weak stroke. I think that's evidenced by his 140 200 IM. But for a long time, we kind of put him, obviously Indiana, we're going to focus on breaststroke. So we kind of put him in the breaststroke track a little bit. We put him in the sprint. And I think this year, his senior year, he really kind of locked in on what he just kind of cleared his focus and was able to focus on the events that he really wanted to swim, and it's paid dividends for him. So really proud of him.
I feel like the exhibition swimmers for Indiana were a big part of this story this weekend, just because, like, as you said, you had guys who were not scoring at the Big Ten championships who very likely will score at the NCAA championships, which just shows kind of the Indiana team depth and how you have to leave some guys off the scoring roster and they're still really, really fast. And I guess that just goes to show maybe one reason why they did win by over 400 points. Sophie, throwing this to you. What did you like out of this men's Big Ten team championships?
Well, it was interesting. I have one of my cousins is a sophomore at Indiana, and this was made enough noise that he was texting and asking about how this translates to NCAAs. So that was fun because he has never been to a swim meet in his entire life.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was fun for me personally. In terms of like the standout, I think like Brendan said, it was a really solid team performance. You can see all of their strengths on display. Their top two individual scorers were Owen McDonald and Zalan Sarkani. So you're seeing the effect that the transfer class is having. Every relay they won had at least one new addition on it. The divers were strong. The breaststroke group was incredibly deep. So I think there's a lot of like strength. Yeah, ridiculous. There's a lot of positives for them to take for this meet. And, clearly there is more left in the tank for NCAAs, which is, also exciting. There are you can look at the scores and see the places where they're hoping to improve next month. But I think the surprise for me was just seeing another 4,900 breaststroke before NCAAs. It's not even that it was Finn Brooks who did it. It was just the fact that there was another one. That was something that was really unexpected, at least for me. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not expect to see another swimmer dip under 50. I did not expect to see IU breaststroke go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the 100 breast and 1, 2, 3, 4 in the 200 breast. Maybe I should have, but that is such a ridiculous level of dominance. And IU breaststroke is an institution at this point, but it's still that is a whole nother level of just really owning an event and a stroke in this case. They do it in both the 100 and the 200. My shout out for this meet, aside from everyone you guys shouted out, University of Southern California getting a Big Ten relay title in on day one in their first Big Ten championships. The 800 free relay of Luke Maurer, Sogard Andersiver, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Benjamin Dillard, and Sjostrom Mieleski. I am saying that right because he's corrected me before. 6:10.8. It was a very, very tight team race. The top four teams were all within half a second of each other. Indiana was fourth at 6:11.3. So great race to start the meet off, but USC got their hand on the wall and got their first conference championship title. So I thought that was just really cool to see. I don't think UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten was as big of a deal as maybe Cal and Stanford going to the ACC, but seeing that it made an impact was pretty cool in that one. So moving on to the Big 12 championships. I'm so happy that Brendan brought this up before we started. Last week's Sink or Swim would 5.5 meet records go down. At least 6 went down. So I feel like we swam that. I don't actually remember if I did or not, but we saw history. We saw ASU dominate. Any swims that stood out to you, Brendan? I'll toss this one to you first again.
On the men's side, this is definitely the Arizona State invite, but I do want to give a shout out to Ralph DeLayden of Arizona, 131.4 in the 200 free. That's going to be pretty close to scoring at NCAAs next month. So it was great to see that. And we kind of compared this to the previous Big 12 championships where it was Texas running the show. And that was true that Arizona State really did dominate this meeting. Congratulations to both their men and women for picking up the conference titles. First conference title for Arizona State women in their program history. That's great to see. But there were definitely a lot of standout swims. And specifically, I was really impressed with Arizona State's 200 freestylers. They had another 200 freestyler, Tomas Lukaminas, 132.4, another great swim from Tucson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sophie, how about you? Standout swims from the Big 12.
Yeah, I think similarly, like we were talking about the Sink or Swims from last week, I think we talked about the women's 100 breaststroke as a race that would be really exciting to watch just because of how many programs were involved. And I think that race really lived up to the hype for me. I think it was 6 or 7 women were under a minute in prelims, which was exciting and kind of set the stage. And then to see Jolie Cry swim a lifetime best and win. She's been an NCAA finalist before. So to see her, on the top of the podium at Big 12s. And she was also second in the 100 fly, which I think, a lot of these mid-major swimmers, when they get to NCAAs, you see what they're best at, right? You see their best event, and you don't often get to see the versatility that they can put on display. And I said she was a mid-major swimmer, and this is very clearly a Power Four conference, but whatever. So it's cool to see her get second in the 100 fly too, and get to showcase a little bit of that doesn't always get seen when you get to the national stage.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think my favorite part of this conference, and even maybe moving forward, will be that, at least on the women's side, ASU did put on a dominant performance. As Brendan mentioned, won their first conference championship in school history. But I think we also got to see a lot of different schools kind of get in there, and it wasn't just the Texas women dominating everyone. It was a lot of schools getting A final swims, a lot of different schools having conference championships, Cincinnati, BYU, Arizona, as well as Arizona State. And so I think on the women's side, it will be very cool to see this conference develop and see maybe some of those, especially women's programs, rise to this occasion, and say, okay, we can be in there. We can be in this fight. Maybe not from a team perspective yet, but the Houstons, the Cincinnatis, even the TCUs, like, I think they can start moving up and certainly have individual performances that are a really big deal for their programs. And so that's nice to see in a Power Four conference, when you have real competition, maybe not on the team side, but at least on the individual scale from event to event. But yeah, on the men's side, a little bit more of the same. ASU men coming off a national title. They're just so dominant and so deep, especially for this conference at this point. So I think they'll be the big man on campus for a while in that regard. But that was Big 12s. And then we had a few standout swims from the men's Ivy League championships. Sophie, I'll throw this one to you first. Standout swim from this for you.
Yeah, I think this was in many ways the most exciting meet of the weekend. The team race came right down to the end, between, Princeton, Harvard, and Yale was certainly in the mix too. I think for me, the surprise of the meet was Nicholas Finch's 44.5 100 fly, the fastest mid-major, which Ivy League is a mid-major, that we have anyway in the SwimSwam database. He'd kind of broken into the top 10 with a 45 mid earlier this season, and to just like shoot right up to the top of the list as a freshman was really cool to see.
Yeah. It was great seeing that all three of these men's teams, as you mentioned, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all kind of competing for that team title, and following it throughout the weekend. But then some real standout swims, like a freshman going 44.5. Brendan, your standout swim from this meet.
I'd like to give a shout out to two swimmers from two teams that weren't quite in that incredible team race, but they put on some fireworks. Jack Kelly from Brown winning the 100 breaststroke title, and then also Matt Fallon from Pennsylvania winning the 200 breaststroke. Matt probably going to be a favorite for the 200 breaststroke title coming up here in a couple of weeks at NCAAs. And Jack Kelly, after a surprise A final last year, he's looking like a real breaststroke contender this year at NCAAs.
Yeah, and just to give some times to those, Matt Fallon winning the 200 breast in 148.8. Whew, that is an Ivy meet record. And then Jack Kelly was second in that event, the 200 breast, 149.8, and he won the 100 breast in 50.6. So some serious breaststroke speed coming out of the Ivy League there. I have a couple swims. The one that caught my attention for this weekend, Noah Millard from Yale, junior at Yale, 4:07.6 in the 500 free. He was 4:16 in prelims. So I guess he could cruise that one pretty easily. He was still top seed going into finals by a couple seconds. But 4:07.6 is some serious distance speed. So really excited to see how he can compete with some of the other very, very big dogs coming into NCAAs. 500 free looks like it's going to be a really great race. And I don't know, maybe Leon's 402 isn't as safe as we thought it would be after already seeing a 404, a 405, given that was from a pro, but Ivy Leaguers going 407. We got some serious depth in this event. And then the 400 free relay, anytime I can mention Dean Ferris, I'm going to take that opportunity. And so last event of the meet, 3 teams, Yale, Harvard, and Princeton, all dip under the Ivy meet record of 250.4 that was set in 2002 by Harvard with Dean the Dream Ferris. So kind of a cool way to close out that meet. And also,
he came up twice that session because Pietro Ubertali from Cornell tied his 200 backstroke Ivy record, which was that's 138.99.
Oh yeah, man. So Dean's record's getting broken left and right, which makes me sad, but is great for the Ivy League, I'm sure, and great for the sport in general.
Heroes get remembered, legends never die.
There you go. What about memes?
Eternal.
Memes are eternal. Memes are forever. And that, I think that's our conference roundup for the week. So lots of fast swimming. We're getting some long course swimming in this coming weekend with the Pro Swim, which we're going to talk about a little bit in Sink or Swim. We have one more college point to hit on, and that is that Olympic medalist Alex Shackell has committed to Indiana University. This was a bit of a surprise. She originally committed to Cal, but then decommitted in October of last year of 2024 and deferred her college enrollment at the time for a year, deciding to remain at home at the Carmel Swim Club and continue to train under Chris Plum. So then she announced, I believe it was just last night, that she's committing to Indiana. We reported that she will begin with the Hoosiers in the spring of 2026. So she won't miss a full year. She'll only miss the first semester is what we're reporting as of now. Just general thoughts on this decision from the Shackell that will be certainly a big power player in the women's NCAA. Brendan, I'll throw this one to you first.
In the Indiana basketball program for many, many years, the mantra was the best in Indiana play for Indiana. And it's really great to see that that's translating a little bit over to swimming. We've gotten many great in-state recruits over the years. Alex is really in line to be the best in-state recruit that we've ever got. And it's really great to see that she's going to go to Bloomington. I'm really excited to watch her career.
Mm-hmm. Sophie, what do you think about this new development in Alex Shackell's?
Yeah, I think it's definitely exciting if you're an Indiana fan. You know, the men's team had a truly incredibly stacked transfer class show up there this year. And the women, have just been kind of rising with, Anna Poplawski, and they got Miranda Grana this year. And this is this is a really big star, for them to come join this team, and will only help them further, in the race to get into top 5 at NCAAs. This is Alex Shackell can really bring a lot, in her individual events and on relays as well. It is a little strange, I think, to see the spring 2026, but when she originally decommitted, she did say that she wanted to focus on international racing a little bit more. So, maybe she wants one last World Cup circuit before turning full-time to the NCAA season.
Yeah, Sophie, you and I were talking about that off camera. I'm really glad you brought up that point, because hopefully we'll get to talk to Alex soon and get her perspective on the situation, but it's certainly interesting to hear that she wanted to defer a year. And then now she's only deferring a semester. It just makes me wonder, why even defer a semester at that point? But I don't know what's going on with her personally, with swimming, with school, with everything else. So would love to get some insight into that, because it is a little different than the timeline we had originally thought for her. But I also think it's exciting to see, as cool as dynasties are, I think diversification across the NCAA is also very fun. It makes it way more fun. For example, in the men's NCAAs this year, It's looking to be a 3-team race. That is way more fun than a 1-team race. Cal had such a ridiculous recruiting class. They had gotten the top 3 recruits in Alex Shackell, Tegan Odell, and Claire Weinstein. And like that seemed like the makings of a dynasty, right? Of like a team that could win multiple NCAA titles. And not that I am a non-Cal supporter or a Cal supporter, but to see one of those young women go elsewhere and bolster and bolster another school's roster in such an impactful way, I think is exciting for the NCAA moving forward. So I hope this is the right decision for her. Very happy. And I hope it sticks, I hope she ends up there and does great things at Indiana. So that was also big swimming news over the weekend. And we're not even done. We're not even close to done with the big swimming news. So with that, we're going to turn to Sink or Swim to break down the rest of this week's news. And first up is a big one. Summer McIntosh announced that she will be leaving the Sarasota Sharks, which has been her training base, I believe, for the last 4 or 5 years. She will, after this season and after this summer's World Championships, she will be exploring, I think, different training groups, but reportedly she will be training with Bob Bowman at the University of Texas for a stint this March. She will also be competing in the Westmont Pro Swim this weekend. So we'll get to see her in action in the competition pool. And then we'll also, I guess, maybe see her in Austin in the training pool. I don't know if we'll see her, but she's supposed to be there. So Sink or Swim, and also just feel free to give your thoughts on this decision for Summer. But will Summer land in Austin permanently? And by permanently, I mean at least for one season, let's say, not just, a couple months for a training camp. Sophie, I'll go to you first on this one.
Okay, we're redefining the rules of this question. So I'll swim it. I think she'll end up in Austin for one season. I think it's a really interesting move for her. She's had so much success in Florida, but, as she ages out of, being a junior swimmer, it makes sense why she would want to start exploring other options. I'm really interested what this means for her event lineup, which is also something that we've been talking about a lot on the breakdown. But I think Yin was asking, I think on some social media site about, she was kind of bringing up the point about swimmers like just gravitating towards Bob Bowman now. And that's like the last major star to move away from their alma mater was really Katie Ledecky moving to Florida. So it's really interesting to see this kind of consolidation. We were just talking about diversifying the NCAA, and it's really interesting to see on the US pro scale, the opposite seems to be happening.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's worth noting in that regard that it's nice to have teams to train with, right? And for professionals, it's nice to have a team of professionals. And I'm sure for some pros, it works to train with the college team as well. And I guess even at Texas, the group of pros train with the college team. But when the college team goes to conference or NCAAs or dual meets, you're still left with a full team of professionals to train with who are in your same boat, going through the same things you are. And from that perspective, I assume I understand why pros would want to congregate, but it does seem like we're getting to a place where Bob Bowman's getting a lot of pros, and it's interesting to think about. Yeah, how many can you handle, and when do you, how do you prioritize the college team versus the pro team, and are you able to do so if a pro team becomes really, really large? I'm swimming it. I think Summer will end up in Austin. I don't see why she wouldn't. It seems like a pretty ideal training base, and I think a season is long enough to try something out to get a feel for it. She might leave after that. She might go to Florida with Katie Ledecky, or she might find another program that fits well. But I certainly see her being in Texas for a while because Bob Bowman is just on a hot streak right now. Everyone wants to train with him. All of his athletes seem to be doing really well. He seems to have figured out a method for training both college athletes and pros that is working for him. So I'm swimming this one. Brendan, what do you think?
I'm going to swim this one. You mentioned kind of the consolidation of pro groups. I think Bob Bowman is on record about 20 years ago when he was the coach of Michigan. He kind of expressed that he had too many eggs in too many baskets, and that his pro group kind of took away from the success of the college team. But he definitely figured that out at Arizona. And I think he's really managing it well at Texas. And I think that summer, we talked on a previous breakdown of, I think I brought up the point of summer Los Angeles 2028 has the makings of an all-time individual performance, the Olympics. And I mean, Leon is still in his prime as well. So if Bob gets to coach Phelps in 08, Leon last year, Leon in 28, Summer in 2028, he really knows what he's doing. And I think he's the best place for Summer to really capitalize on medaling or gold medaling in all of her individual events.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And speaking of Leon, one of our commenters just asked or commented, a bit odd, Marchand has dropped off the radar. Leon is training in Australia right now. He's there with Thomas Chacon, Kayla McEwen, a bunch of other athletes. It seems like, and that is very much by design. Him and Bob agreed to that. He needed a break. He wanted to be off the radar. And I think Bob wanted that for him too, after such a big Olympics, both performance wise and just emotionally. And I think they are looking towards Leon's long-term growth and performance calendar, especially targeting LA 2028, I think. So I think Leon's got another big Olympics in him, and I think him being off the radar in Australia is very much a part of that, and that's where they're supposed to be right now. So I think it'll be exciting as we move forward with Leon, maybe with Summer. Is Caleb Dressel going to go train with Bob Bowman? I mean, geez. He's
and
not.
leave the farm?
He's not. He's never leaving Florida. I'm just kidding. But what if Katie Ledecky did?
What then?
What then? Okay. We mentioned it. Summer McIntosh. We will see her this week at the Westmont Pro Swim. Sink or swim, and feel free to throw out who you're most excited to see swim at this meet as well. Sink or swim, we will see a U.S. Open record go down at the Westmont Pro Swim this weekend. Brendan, let's go to you first.
I'm going to sink this one. I don't think that there will be a U.S. Open record, but I'm excited to see people that we haven't heard from in a while. There have been a lot of people that have taken the fall off from competing, and rightfully so, after a big summer last summer. And I think it's just exciting to really ramp up preparations for trials this summer and world championships this summer. And I'm excited to see what some of the national teamers who did not make the Olympic team last year are able to do at this meet.
One sink. Sophie, you got some optimism?
No, sorry. I'm also sinking this one. I feel like the wild card here is Kate Douglas. Kind of last year, she dropped a 200 breaststroke U.S. Open record in January, and then she did one at U.S. Trials prelims, seemingly just because she wanted to in that event. So, I think she obviously had a big summer and a big fall as well on the World Cup circuit and then at Short Course Worlds. So she's kind of hit the reset button, but it seemed like, in the lead up to the Olympics, like that was something she did regularly. But I think just because this is March, this is kind of everybody getting their feet wet for the first time for ramping up for Long Course 2025. I don't think so, but I'm also excited to see what the addition of some of the Australian swimmers at this meet will bring to the competition.
Mm-hmm. Really excited to see the Australian swimmers, Sam Short, Meg Harris, among those who are slated to compete at this Westmont Pro Swim. Kind of odd that like Chicago's the one they're going. It's like in the middle, It's like, anyway. whatever. They might have
The
been
first taste
training.
of Chicago winter. I wonder how they'll fare.
Seriously, this is like the worst time to come to the U.S. But maybe they were at a training trip at. I think a lot of people go to that place in Arizona.
Northern Arizona.
Altitude. Yeah, that one. Flagstaff. So maybe they were there. I don't know. But excited to see them compete nonetheless. I just realized that Summer is only entered in the 200 fly, 400 IM, and 200 IM, which don't give me high hopes to see a U.S. Open record. And I think she is the only person I see breaking a U.S. Open record. But we do have Reagan Smith and Kate Douglas, who are wizards at swimming fast in season. So I'm just going to be crazy and swim it. I think someone will pop a fast time. I mean, for the love of God, Summer went 8:09 3 weeks whenever, less than a month ago. She could pop a fast 200 IM. The US Open record in the 400 IM is 4:28. Her best time's 4:24. Like, I wouldn't put it past her to just rip a 4:27, because like normal people can't do that, but she's Summer McIntosh. So I want to see it. I'm manifesting it. I'm swimming it. Next up, UVA has announced that it will not have a diving team next season. And I think this is probably a culmination of a lot of things. I think new roster limits, the state of the NCAA generally probably all play into this. UVA has produced NCAA All-American divers in the past, and they are not saying our diving program is no more. They are just saying for the time being, it will not be a thing next year. They currently have a temporary diving coach. Their full-time diving coach had left, I think, like in the fall, and they had someone come in and say, I'll do it this year, essentially. So sink or swim, UVA will bring back its diving team. Sophie, what do you think?
I'm thinking this as well, not to continue with the pessimistic streak, but I think that, Olympic sports are in a really critical moment in NCAA athletics. We've been talking a lot about it with swimming, and certainly plenty of divers have been beating the drum on the kind of dire state of NCAA diving, just in the wake of all the change. There was an op-ed that came out this morning on SwimSwam by Hunter Hollenbeck, a Stanford diver. So if you want this perspective of an actual NCAA diver, I would encourage people to go read that. It was really interesting to hear that perspective. But I think that, unfortunately, this may be a sign of things to come. And if Virginia has, continues with the success that they've been having, with their women's team, and they've got a monster men's recruiting class coming in this fall, I don't see them necessarily feeling a reason to bring their diving program back.
Mm-hmm. Brendan, thoughts on this one?
I really don't want to sink it, but unfortunately, I think I will have to. It was pointed out by a SwimSwam commenter on, I forget which article, either the initial announcement or that op-ed this morning, where it was something along the lines of the seeds of this decision were planted 20 years ago when the new quote pool at the time at UVA did not include plans for a diving tower, a platform diving setup. And I definitely agree with that. I think that, unfortunately, will be a trend going forward, where if you do not have the facilities or kind of the buy-in necessary to have a very competitive high-level diving program, it's not looking all that great. There are many programs out there that train in pools that do not currently offer a platform diving setup. So unfortunately, I'm all for dive dove, and I love being the dive dove guy. But unfortunately, I think this is kind of a sign of things to come.
Mm-hmm. I want to swim it. It's hard, and we have seen this happen in the past. In the last 5 years, Arizona State went at least one season without a diving team. They didn't have a diving coach, didn't have a diving team, and then they brought a diving coach in, and now they have a diving team again. And that was under Bob Bowman, right? And then they ended up, winning a national title. And I don't know, transparently, I don't know how much diving played into that, but we've seen this situation where the diving team did come back. It is interesting that that was during a time where Bob Bowman was building his legacy or building his NCAA championship team. And right now UVA is in a spot where they're a full-blown dynasty. And they, for NCAA purposes or for scoring purposes, they certainly don't need a diving team. It will be interesting to see them, what happens moving forward when they lose namely the Walsh sisters, but a lot of key pieces. Not saying they don't have a lot of other key pieces who will be around for a while, but it is the NCAA is obviously in a precarious position, or state right now. So I'm gonna sink it. I don't have a lot of faith that diving will be on the rise, right? And I think, unlike swimming, where we've found a lot of ways to hype up competitions or provide value for a community or for a broader audience for maybe college swim meets, I don't know that diving has done that, can do that. I don't know much about diving, but it's how do you rev up a dive meet or a diving competition, right? It seems very different. And if swim teams don't see a lot of value in having a diving team, then in this day and age, it might be hard to sponsor one or to bring one back. So I'll sink it too.
I'd like to take a moment. I think, if you really truly care, if you're a current NCAA swimmer, you really truly care about this sport, the way that it is, the way that it's functioned for a while, you see its true potential. I think that your support of your diving teammates is crucial. And I'd also like to say that I would also like to put the onus on some of the coaches, both diving and swimming in the NCAA. I know specifically in the Big Ten, on the first night of competition where there are just the two relays, in between the 200 medley relay and the 800 freestyle relay, there's a team diving competition. And it's just exhibition. It doesn't count for points, but it's kind of a demonstration of diving where, divers are limited to 3 events. They can only do 1 meter, 3 meter, and platform diving. But if we want to kind of demonstrate their purpose, demonstrate their utility, I think that moving towards having that team diving competition, not just at the Big Ten meet, but having it scored at conference level meets and potentially NCAAs, I think that would do a tremendous help to the diving community. I don't know. Just want to get on my soapbox a little bit.
Much appreciated. This is why you're here, Brendan. You bring expert level knowledge in a myriad of ways, and that was certainly one of them. That's something I've never seen, experienced, but it's that is one way that we could add value, and certainly, make diving a little bit more marketable. So I love that. Thank you for adding that insight.
Anytime.
All right. Next up on Sink or Swim, it was announced that, we don't know if the UVA diving team is coming back. The Notre Dame men swimming team is coming back next year. They were suspended for 1 year after gambling stuff. You can read more about that on SwimSwam, but it was announced that they are back for the 2025-26 season. At their last NCAA championships in 2024, they placed 10th and scored 132 points. Notably, that was with Olympian Chris Giuliano on their team. Louisville was 15th at those NCAA championships with 84 points. My sink or swim to you, the Notre Dame men will be in the top 15 at their first NCAA championships back, the 2026 NCAAs. Sink or swim, Sophie? Let's go to you first.
I think I'm thinking this just because I'm not totally sure what Chris Giuliano's plans are. I know that he said when he went to Texas, he was planning to graduate from Notre Dame in some way. I'm not sure what that looks like. Texas has him listed as a senior, but I think he still has one more year of eligibility. No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
So.
I'm not clear on
unless there's like a weird NCAA loophole rule. I think this should be his last year.
Okay. Well, then I feel more confident about syncing it. A large part, I mean, Chris Giuliano obviously was the big headline of that NCAA season for Notre Dame, but they also had a lot of seniors and fifth years contributing to those points at NCAAs. So I think that they will also have been out of eligibility by the time the team comes back. So that's part of why I'm thinking it. I think the question would be what Tommy Janton could do. He scored for them in 2024 and he looked great at trials. He hasn't raced since at an official meet. So there's a kind of big question mark lingering there. But I think it will be interesting. This year at men's NCAAs, there's such a tight team race at the top that many teams are trying to get involved in. So it will be interesting to see the points spread. And I think that will give us a little bit more information about what exactly it might look like to get top 15, like what that's going to take 2 years from now.
Yeah. Brendan?
I'm going to swim this one. Sophie, I definitely see your side of it where graduating a name like Chris Giuliano and a couple of strong junior, senior classes after this year, that definitely kind of hurts chances a little bit. I do think that because prior to this season, Notre Dame was on a pretty meteoric rise from relative obscurity in the ACC and the NCAA in general. I think they really showed what they were capable of with that 10th place finish last year. They were able to string together some really strong recruiting classes that for the most part have stayed intact. I think they have a really strong coaching staff in Notre Dame. And I think that 15th is definitely within reach with the type of recruits they've been able to bring in.
I like both of your reasonings. I think I would swim top 20. I think I'm going to sink top 15. Also, it's crazy to me that like Louisville's a really good team and like they were 15th at NCAA, it's like, that's stiff competition. But like Brendan said, I think they've got a lot of talent coming in. They've been able to hold a strong number of their really good recruits from this year. They've even got recruits this year or like commits after not having a team. And as Brendan mentioned, great coaching staff, a lot of NCAA pedigree with them. This is my theory on the situation. As we saw Bob Bowman do with Arizona State when they were building, I think the first year right after they redshirted the entire team, they went all in for Pac-12s. And because I think that was like a more attainable goal for them. And then they went to NCAAs and like didn't perform quite as well as a team as they had maybe wanted to. I think that's the year Leon broke the 200 IM record for the first time. But I think this team is going to do something like that next year where they will be maybe a little more focused on the conference championships because it's probably going to be a very young team. There a lot of newness, a lot of like getting team cohesion and chemistry going. And I think they will be more focused on the ACC championships and getting second swims there and scoring as many points as they can there. And then NCAAs will just be more of an experience meet where they're like feeling it out. If they get second swims, great. But I don't know if scoring or placement at that meet will be their top priority. And I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm going with. So I'm going to sink top 15 for Notre Dame. And last but not least, this is a way too early prediction. We love these on the SwimSwam Breakdown. Sarah Sjostrom is having a super baby. And I only say that because she's Sarah Sjostrom and she is a superwoman all on her own. She's announced that she is pregnant and also has reaffirmed her goal of competing in LA2028. She won gold in Paris in the 50 and the 100 freestyle. Sink or swim, Sarah Sjostrom is medaling at the LA 2028 games. Brendan, what do you think?
Hard swim. I think medaling, or come on. I think that's pretty easy. Gold, a little bit maybe out of reach, but then again, who's to doubt Sarah Sjostrom? But medaling, I think that's a layup. She's going to get one in the 50 or the 100. Maybe she'll go back to the 100 fly. I don't know, but she'll get one.
What if pregnancy brought Sarah Sjostrom back in the 200 free? I wouldn't put it past her. I would, but the crazier things have perhaps happened. I mean, I'm with you. How can you not swim this? She's Sarah Sjostrom. She's Superwoman. And especially for sprinting, she's been the most consistent female sprinter I think we've ever seen, certainly in the last 20 years. So that's an easy swim. I think she can pop out a baby and then pop out a medal worthy 50 freestyle. And so it's easy. Sophie, are you going to go against the grain?
No, absolutely not. This is such an easy swim. She pops out 2350 freestyles like it's nothing. And I think there was only one other person in Paris who was sub 24 in the individual 50 free. So yes, she will be on the podium.
Yeah, it's easy, and it's easy to predict now. We'll certainly be following her and that storyline on the lead up to LA, but I think for now it's kind of a no-brainer swim at this point. But that's our